Hi, welcome to the channel everybody. My name's Chris from Driver Training Limited. We turn trainees into top instructors. We just want to say well done to Lucy in Chippenham for passing the ADI Part 3, came and did some training, breezed through it. Well done, congratulations. If you're on a pink license, trainee license, and you're wondering for the Part 3, how do I know where I am in regards to progress? Am I doing the things I should? Well, we're going to give you a great insight into that in today's video. So stay tuned. Welcome to Driver Training Limited. If you're on your ADI Part 3, how do you know what progress you're making? How do you know if you're doing the right thing? How do you know if you're covering all the things that you need to, that they're going to look for on your ADI Part 3? What kind of reflective log can you use to help you understand? We got asked this question a while ago by one of our Part 3 trainees. He'd come to us from another company and he didn't know anything of what he should be doing really. So what we did, we recommended the book that we have, the ADI Part 3 Standards Checkbook. Now in the back, one, it's a great book because it helps you understand what's required for the ADI Part 3 test. It breaks it down, it goes through it individually to explain the subject, but also at the back you've got the ADI Part 3 suggested plan for the day. Now in that you can use that, the ADI Part 3 suggested plan, you can use that as your training log, as a reflective guide with each pupil. What we're going to do is put these up on the website aditrainer.org as a free download, and you can download them and look at them and think, well, actually, do I do this with each pupil? So about halfway down the page, it says, do you recap the last lesson? Now, every instructor should have a progress book that they give to their pupils. You should just have that automatically. Ours is specifically designed that they've got 5 pages of notes in them. So it doesn't matter what you're working on. What you don't want to do is use the progress books that just go 1 to 5. What does that tell you about what happened? It doesn't. What does it tell the pupil? Nothing. So how can you then recap the last lesson? But if you don't have a progress book, what we often have is trainees that come to us and say, yeah, I've been in that situation myself. The pupils got in and I've said, right, we're going to work on roundabouts this week. And they've gone, but we've done that for the last 2 lessons. Am I doing something wrong? It could be that you're working on roundabouts, but they still don't know speed limits. They still don't know lane positioning on approach to roundabouts. They don't know about how to identify an approach to roundabouts. So by writing the notes down, it helps you straight away to recap the last lesson. So you can come back from your pupil and think, well, did I actually do that? Or did I just talk about, oh, how's the dog? Is he okay? Great. Okay, then let's go do some driving. That's not recapping the last lesson. So get a progress book, get many progress books, use them. Every single one of your students should have a progress book. So you know what they were doing, they know what they were doing. For your Part 3 training, as we've said, just think, did I do that? If you're on a pink license, do you do that with every pupil? Because you should. regardless of whether you're thinking of part 3 or not. But then with the recap, the next point says, did you question and answer them? Do Q&A. So what were we doing last time, Chris? Roundabouts, yeah. And how do you feel confidence-wise with roundabouts at the moment? Pretty good, to be honest, yeah. So last week we were working on roundabouts, weren't we? What do you think went well with them? Well, I was identifying them a lot better, wasn't I? You were, Chris. It was getting a lot better. What about figuring out what lane we needed to go on approach to the roundabout? Yeah, I'm still kind of struggling with that, aren't I? A little bit. Could have been better. How about staying in lane on roundabout? Oh no, that one was really bad, wasn't it? Well, again, we're using these as learning opportunities. We don't expect you to know it and do it straight away. But generally, from where we were with roundabouts at the beginning to how we are now, can you see the improvement that you're making? Oh, yeah. So I tell you what, for the purpose of today's lesson then, shall we go and work on choosing a lane on approach to roundabouts and then staying in our lane discipline? Should we make those our 2 goals? We've done it all by question and answer. So again, when you finished a pupil's lesson, can you think, did I actually do that? What were we working on last week, Chris? Roundabouts. Okay, let's go and do it then. Did we use question and answer? Linked with that, as we've just said, did we set the goal for today's lesson? Okay then, Chris, with that in mind from our last lesson, the goals for today, should we go and work on choosing a lane on approach to roundabouts? Should we go and work on lane discipline, staying in the lane around roundabouts? Should we go and get those so you're more confident on those? Does that sound good? Yeah. So build it up. Think, have I done setting a goal? Or did I just say, let's go do some driving? Did we scale the pupil 1 to 10? So when it comes to identifying roundabouts, on a scale of 1 to 10, Chris, 1 being not very confident, 10 being mega confident, when it comes to identifying roundabouts, recognizing them, looking for the boards, how do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10? Oh, 10. Good. Glad to hear it. What about when it comes to choosing a lane on approach to a roundabout? Probably 5, 6. Okay. And what about when it comes to lane discipline? Staying in lane and following it? Oh man, 2 or 3. All right then. So that kind of confirms, doesn't it, that our goals for today, choosing a lane on approach and staying in a lane around the roundabout, those are the right goals for today. So do we do that each lesson? When your pupil gets out, think, did I do that? Or you can go through it, have it on your lap with your briefing folder. Do I do this? Have I just done this bit? Have I set the goals? Did I do question and answer? Have I asked him anything to do with the subject? We can self-evaluate, can't we? Then did we talk about who's responsible for the safety within and outside the car? Okay, Chris, and now we're progressing really well, aren't we, with the identification of roundabouts? Is it okay if I leave that bit to you to identify by the roundabout, the road markings that we've got a roundabout coming up, and then start adjusting your speed accordingly? And then I'll help you as we focus on the lane positioning on approach. Oh yeah, that's fine. Do we show them, look, there's a shared responsibility. There's also us handing more responsibility to you as the driver. Do we make them aware of that? Or do we just go, actually, I don't think I ever do that with my pupils. Then you can ask the pupil, so to begin with, how would you like to be instructed? So, okay, Chris, with regards to identification, if you're all right with leaving it to you, that's me doing that on an independent basis. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to expect you to identify them now and then deal with the speed on approach. Is that okay? Yeah, fine with that. When it comes to the lane discipline though, and choosing the lane, how would you like me to instruct you? Would you like me to prompt you by means of questions, or would you like me to do it fully guided, where I talk you through it to begin with, and then as you progress and get the hang of it, I start to back to the question and answer? Yeah, fully guided, please. Just talk me through it, because it's baffling my head on both, to be honest. So do we do that? Or just every roundabout we come to, are we fully guiding them? Or if they're struggling with all aspects, are we questioning them or just leaving it to them? Where are they comfortable with? Where do they think they need the most help? Where do they think they need the least help? Now, did you notice when we offered the choice of instruction for the lane positioning and lane discipline, we don't offer them independent, because we've just established they're struggling with it. So the last thing we're going to do is set them up to fail by saying, look, I know you're struggling with this and can't do it, so I'm going to give you the option to do it by yourself. Why? We've just established they can't. So therefore, think if they are struggling with something, is it prompted? Is it fully guided? What do they want? But then as they get better, by all means, pull them up and then offer them the next level. Our next point, did we provide practical driving to achieve the goals? Did we let them go and practice what we're working on? Or did we just do a general drive around the high street, through the zebra crossings, and then get back and think, oh man, at the beginning I said we were going to work on lane discipline, and we've barely done any of that. So again, for your part 3, just as a driving instructor, you can self-evaluate. Am I doing this with my pupils? Or do we just drive around without me really thinking, well, what roads can I go on that have got the roundabouts that are going to give us the opportunity to go and practice the things we need to work on? Did we pull up and discuss any safety critical incident? So at any point where you've had to hit the brake, grab the wheel, just say verbally, stop, slow down. Do we then pull them up and discuss it? Or do we say it on the go and expect them to understand it? Because your pupils will nod, they will go, yeah. But I guarantee if you then pull them up at the side of the road and go, so in your own words, would you like to explain what I was just talking about? I didn't quite understand it. In other words, I blanked you off. Like when we're driving and there's a lot going on, you might turn the radio off because you're going, shut up, want to concentrate on the sat nav, want to concentrate on what I'm doing. That's what your pupils do with you. So you need, if there's a serious, what would be a serious on your part 2, what would be a serious on the driving test, you need to pull them up and talk to them and help them understand and find out things. Do you remember at the crossroads with the traffic lights, Chris? I had to say stop. Do you know why? No. Did you not see the car coming towards us? No. Where were you looking, mate? I was just looking into the road I was turning into. What's the reason for the fault? You need to help them understand it. Then linked with that means you need to get your briefing folder out, you need to get your lesson plans out, you need to get your iPad out, and you need to show them a picture and help them understand what happened and why. So why did you go at that crossroads? I was looking to the right. Where should we be looking, Chris? You know, when we turn right, where do we normally look first? Oh, ahead. Yeah, that determines whether we can go or not. So why did you go to turn right, Chris? Well, our light was on. Was it a general green light or was it a filter light? Oh, I think it was just a normal green light. And the normal green light means what with regards to traffic flow? Oh, that both sets of traffic can go at once. How do we know the difference between a normal light and a filter light? Well, the filter light's the arrow, isn't it? But remember, Chris, even with the green filter light, what do we have to be aware of? Oh, that the cars coming towards us might not know how to deal with filter lights and just come through, even though their actual light is on red. Well done. So do we use question and answer or jump to the conclusion, you need to stop if there's cars there, Chris? Well, great, but that wasn't his fault. His fault was he wasn't looking or he misread the traffic lights. Whatever it is, you need to find out. Then you need to explain to them the seriousness of it. What would have happened if we'd have kept going then? Whose fault would it have been? So how are we going to deal with this when we come back to this situation? And that's where, giving them the practice time, can we go round in a square, practice these lights again? Can we go down to another set of lights and do exactly the same thing? Did we provide practical training, or did we mention it but then go and just carry on driving for the next half hour, 40 minutes, and not come back to turning right at any crossroads? So we can assess, did I do that with my pupil or not? Bear in mind, we need to be doing this with every pupil. As we said, linked with that, using questions, find out, don't jump to conclusions. Did they see the car? Did they not? You went to pull out on the car there, yeah. Wait for it to go past you. Didn't actually see it, didn't know there was a car. Don't be afraid to change the lesson plan. If you've planned on doing roundabouts, but you've come to the crossroads first and it's gone wrong, just briefly pull them up, and as you've gone through discussing the fault analysis and giving them a coping strategy, a remedy, how do I fix this? Just say, I tell you what, Chris, I know we were planning on doing the roundabouts. How about we just go and focus while it's fresh in our mind? We go and focus on these crossroads and just making sure we do those right first before we go on to the roundabouts. Does that sound like a good idea? Yeah. Change the lesson plan, adapt it if needed. Then once they've got the hang of doing the crossroads, yeah, go back to the roundabouts. But think, do I do that? Did I mention the crossroads, but then we spent the next 15, 20, 30 minutes doing roundabouts? What was the serious? At that point, it was the crossroads. I need to go and focus on them. Do we get back when we should? Hopefully we do for our timing. Did we then recap and reflect with the pupil? And do we make it specific to what we've done? How do you feel with roundabouts, Chris? How do you feel with crossroads? Well, that's not specific. How do you feel with lane positioning on approach to roundabouts? Which lane do we choose? How do we know what lane? And if we don't have a centre white line going round a roundabout, what can we do? Oh, just follow the left curb. Or if I'm in the right lane, follow the right curb. Well done. You're getting the hang of it. How do we know if it's safe to go at crossroads, Chris? We look ahead first. Yeah, we can glance into the road, but our main priority is it's safe to go first. And then what about our green lights? Oh yeah, general green light is normally both sides going at the same time. Filter light is the arrow, but still be aware of cars coming towards me. Well done, Chris. You're getting it really well. So now then, on that scale of 1 to 10, when it comes to lane positioning on approach to roundabouts, 1 being not very confident, 10 being very confident, how do you feel now? Definitely 7 or 8. And what about lane positioning around roundabouts? Again, definitely 7 or 8 now. That's good, Chris. But why isn't it 9 or 10? I'm going to tell you what, we'll work on that next week. I'll just write this down in the progress book, and there's our lesson for next week. At the start, we're just going to try and build that up, and then we're going to move on to our next subject. Does that sound good? Look forward to it. That's what you can do after each lesson. Did I do this with that pupil and my second pupil and my third pupil? Or do we just drop them off, go off to the next one, do the same thing again, go off to the next one? You have to self-evaluate what you're doing. And if you're answering yes to all these, that puts you in a really good standing for your ADI Part 3. If you're not, then pick the bits you need to work on or are not doing and start doing that with your pupils today. Because the more you practice with the pupils, the easier it will be for your ADI Part 3.